everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is a special episode of Put It Together live stream. We're coming to you on Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. This is actually a redo show, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But I want to welcome all our friends who are watching us on Facebook and LinkedIn. Thank you for joining. If you don't mind sharing this on your page so that other folks can watch along. If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new episode on the air. And for those of you who want to share, you can share from all the pages. So share this onto your page so that other people can watch along with you. Those are all our friends that are watching on Instagram. We want to welcome you to the show. Although it doesn't completely link to StreamYard, I can still see your comments. I'm watching on my phone. So if you make any comments or ask any questions, I'll be sure to pass them along to the cast. Today's show, as I was saying, it's a redo. For those of you that watched the first episode that we did with the cast and production of The Spy that went into rehab, who went into rehab, I'm sorry, that's misspelled. Let me change that. The Spy who went to rehab. There we go. We did an episode. Let me give you the backstory. We did an episode where I went to the theater and we wanted to interview them all live. But my microphone decided to not want to play that day. It was having too much fun with the conversation. So we didn't get it all. And I felt so embarrassed and so horrible because the conversation was so good. The cast was just excellent. You could check out the chemistry. So there was a decision made, and it just, we couldn't leave it without giving you folks a chance to get to know them a little bit more. Aside the fact that I already got to see it, I was there on opening night. So I think I have a different perspective on how the play goes. I know more about the characters and who they are. I got to talk to the cast. Plus, they had a little an opening night after party, so Christian and I got to hang out there and enjoy some of their food. Good fajitas, and so there's a difference. And for those of you that are familiar, we talk about this quite often on the show. The sober curator. I was honored to do a review on the show, and I hope I did it justice, and I hope they liked it. I really did enjoy the show. Aside from the fact that I went to rehab and have lived those experiences. I'm not going to read you the review, but I think some of the cast is signing off. You know, everybody's busy. We're in Hollywood, and so they're going to trickle in. So while they do that, while they sign up, I'm going to show you really quick the sober curator page, so you can see kind of what it's about. So this is the review that I did, the sober review, The Spy Who Went Into Rehab by me, and it's a little review. Didn't do a whole lot, just talked about it. But I want you to show you. So there's the home page. I don't think it's going to go to the home page, but show you some of the, where I just lost the page. There we go. About us. There's the merchandise page where you can buy stuff. Happy hour. There's reviews about non-alcoholic drinks that you can check out. There's the lifestyle page about locations, where to go, what to do. Entertainment, and that's where you can find The Spy Who Went Into Rehab, plus other reviews. Travel, if you want to travel anywhere and you want to check out places that are sober friendly, there's a way to do it. The spiritual gangster page, that's where you can find my horoscopes for the week, plus other spiritual stuff. I didn't do a review this week. Long story, I was in Dallas, worked hard. And then other resources that you can check out. So if you are interested in more about recovery, go check out the Sober Curator, which is right there. Go check out the webpage where you can get all kinds of stuff about recovery. So I'm going to remove that and get this off. We do have one. Cool. We have our first comment. Hi. Hey, Christian. Thank you for watching. Hi, babe. So but while we're waiting and we have a couple people watching, we're going to bring him in just kind of like they do in a play. Bring him one by one. And so I'm going to do the first introduction and bring in Mr. Stuart Howard onto the. Hello, Stuart. How are
Surprise. Here
you?
I am. Welcome to my messy person cave.
uh, well, we appreciate you letting us in. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel great. We're on a real roll with this play. The reviews keep getting they're still coming in from opening night, and every review is better than the one before. I mean, you don't do this just for reviews, but they don't hurt with building bigger audiences. And so we've been selling out every night.
That's awesome. Well, I talked about it quite a bit, and let me put this in the scroll down so we were I've talked about it. I posted it on some of the sober groups that I belong to on different social media pages, hoping, yeah, particularly people to come in. So I guess it's appropriate that I would talk to you first because I said it in my review. Um, you blew me away. Everybody was amazing, but you blew me away. I'm not going to say you're my favorite, but before they get here, I'm going to say it. You were my favorite. Uh, Particularly because you have the two characters, and um, so can we talk a little bit about the two characters and how you brought them both to life?
Thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. Um, Gotten some of the best reviews of my life on this show. I was approached on this one. They were having trouble getting two different parts cast, and I have no idea why. They just weren't finding the right person. And I had just started working with this wonderful company, Pacific Resident Theater, that is the crown of Venice Beach. They're a great theater company. I'd left them for a while, and I was just coming back, and I really wanted to get into something just to get my foot in the door again. And this was an audition was offered, and I read it, and there was one part. I don't want to give too much away here, but there's one part that I just fell in love with, and that was the supervillain Lazarus Rex. As I read it, I was laughing out loud reading it. I just had an idea what I could do with it, and I also read for a guy named Gary, but I thought, boy, I'm wrong for that. And to my surprise, they cast me in both. And as it happens, they're not on stage at the same time. But even when I read it, I thought, man, it's awfully close. There's going to be some fast costume changes. And this is not a production that can afford to give me three dressers to help me do it. So I do it. But I'll cut to more to your question. They're really opposites, which attracted me as soon as I bit into it. It's a big challenge. And for, I mean, I've done film and TV, but I'm a stage actor at heart, and a stage actor acts with his whole body. The audience can always see all of you, and so you have to physically transform, and you're trained to physically transform. And I always chase the character. I read a character, and it's not me, and I say I chase it. I let myself flow into it. I follow the lead of the character, and I find myself behaving differently, moving differently, sounding differently. You imagine a background, you decode the script, and sure enough, I just came up with two. I'm being told two very, very, very distinct people, and this won't happen to any of your audience members if they your followers if they come to see it because you've seen me now. But I have had on a shocking number of occasions on this, I've had people not realize that I was the same person playing both, and it wasn't. I don't change any makeup. So it's, I mean, there's an eye patch on one and glasses on the other, but the rest is just magic. I don't know how it works. It's magic.
It was
Thank you.
mainly because, and Satir is here already, so we're going to introduce him. We're going to bring him up in just a second.
Great.
Uh, uh, but it was only because I knew the story that I knew, but I didn't know. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I got lost in the story that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I know what's happening. But my brain was like, no, that's.
Yeah. I've had people say, where's at the end of it, why didn't the guy who played Gary come out and take a bow?
Where's Gary? And particularly, and then I'm going to say this on a personal note. As a gay man who went to rehab, I recognized you. I knew who you were. It was, or who Gary was. Like I know Gary. Parts of Gary was me. I was parts of Gary. We were both there trying to exist in this world that we had no idea who we were. I went to a house in Dickinson, Texas, in the middle of nowhere, with 27 straight brothers. I was the only gay guy. So I felt lost in this world that I had no clue about. And you represented me on stage. And it was really cool to watch you. So So we're gonna bring in our lead. Hi, Satya. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you? I apologize. I am not tech savvy, and I was trying to figure out how to get it going on my computer, so I just finally resorted to my iPhone. So,
Don't worry. I figure everybody's making their own dramatic entrance into the studio, so we're good. It works with the style.
right.
Um, for introduction purposes, can you tell the folks who you are and the role you play in the play?
Sure. Hi. I'm Satyar Purvase. I play Simon Cross in The Spy Who Went to Rehab, which is currently playing at Pacific Resident Theater in Venice, along with my friend Stuart Howard and a wonderful cast of interesting characters.
So tell us, and as I was telling Stuart when we first started, we did the interview before, and I didn't know the characters. Now I know the characters, and I'm trying not to talk too much because then I'll give away more than I have to. But how did this play come to you? How did the character appear? And like, did you know him before you knew him? Does that make sense?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. I met the writer, Gregg Ostrin, through Cyndy. We were going to do another one of his plays, which is going to be produced now at the Coachella Valley Repertory Company. And so Cyndy called me and said, in the meantime, he has another play, and there's a spot that opened up within the co-op schedule. And she said, so how's your British accent? And I said, spot on. And she sent me the play. And as soon as I read it within the first 5 pages, I was like, I'm in. It was really one of the funniest things that I'd read just within the first 5 pages. I'm like, this is amazing. And I identified with the character immediately. And as I continued to read it, it just got better and better. I could see it. And it's funny, an ex-girlfriend of mine, when she saw the show, she's like, you were just waiting to do that accent, weren't you? Because she said I was walking around talking in a British dialect, and I wasn't aware of it, but I guess it paid off.
Well, as I wrote in my review, the accent totally made the character. I mean, you were so suave. It was just like, there's just, uh, without sounding like I'm trying to hit on you, because I could totally make it sound that way. But there was something about right from the start, right from those first lines, we just, I mean, I don't know about everybody else. I just ate it up. I was like, I know who this dude is. Like, I know, like, well, you don't know, but you have an idea. You're like, I feel like I know who this guy is. I've watched him. I've grown up watching him. And although I'm going to be honest, I didn't like you in the beginning, but you kind of want to root for you. Like, you want to, like, I want you to succeed. For both of you, I'm going to say this and ask you, like, when you're reading the plays from the beginning, do you kind of start like where you want to take the character to the end, or does it come gradually as you're rehearsing?
You want to go or me, Sat?
Go for it, my friend.
I'll try to. I have a theory about that. It's just my way. I don't really have a method. I use everything I can get, but I do feel like when an actor with training, who's been trained to be exposed, to open himself to this kind of stuff, I think a seed is planted. I think the seed of the character is planted the first time you read it, whether you know it or not. And what you're gonna be, your job for it's gonna sound really mystical, but for me, the job is just to get everything out of the way of that. Everything that isn't the character, just get it out of the way and let the character grow in you. So yeah, I mean, I think it starts then. Now, some scripts are more obvious than others, and this one, I will admit, I felt like I knew I had an angle. He's just sort of popped into my brain. I had an angle on what to do with him almost immediately. It didn't end up with quite the same accent, but just the manic insanity of him. Yeah, that came right into my brain. Yeah.
Got you.
How about you?
Oops.
Satya, are you frozen?
He frozen.
There we go.
There you go.
I actually felt the same way. First of all, What you said was a great compliment. I don't, I remember watching characters. I don't consider Simon Cross a bad guy, and I don't think anyone ever approaches a character playing them thinking, oh, he's a bad guy, because you never judge your character. We don't, well, we do in a sense, because not in a bad way, but we judge others by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions, and I remember like watching when I was a kid watching, I think it was Dallas and J.R. Ewing. He was the guy everybody loved to hate. He was just so juicy, you know. You loved watching him, and he would get under your skin. You're like, oh, but he was just so good, and that's how I envision Simon. He is he's cocky in a way, and he's but he's likable. There's a part of us that we can in Simon that we can relate to, and for me immediately as well. There are elements of Simon that I can relate to, and as so yes, I definitely had an idea of, as I was reading, I'm like, I know this guy, and there's parts of Simon that are in me, and there are other parts that we create even as we're doing the show. There are things that I discover along the way, and that's what makes it fun. Otherwise, it just becomes like you're, performing on autopilot, and that's when a performance gets boring. But if you're present and in the moment and responding and reacting and responding organically, then it's always new each and every time. So I've had people come and say, oh, it was different than last time, but it was better. And that's because, again, it's always new every single time. You never know what will happen. So if you come again, Daniel, you might see something different that you will like.
And actually, that was such a, because I grew up in Dallas. In fact, I was just in Dallas this weekend. So it's a good reference. J.R. Ewing is a big, because as a little boy watching Dallas, I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to date somebody like that. Like, that's who I want. Like, that's all I want to be my daddy. Like, but, so that's a really good example. We have a question from somebody who actually saw the play. So this is for Stuart. How did you figure out the nuances for the cat? And you are incredible, by the way.
There's an old axiom in the theater, which is give a good actor a good prop, and then just stand back. That's a terrific prop. It's meant to be not a stuffed. It's meant to be a taxidermy cat. And it was so perfect. And I just have always had. I don't know. I mean, some of your training, when you're in acting school, you do improvisation with props, and you make things become other things. They give you a pencil, and you've got 3 minutes to make it into, a million things. It becomes a rocket ship. It becomes a knife, whatever. But I've also always liked to do that. There's a little bit of puppeteer in me, I think. I used to like to make my nephew's stuffed animals come to life for him. And so I was handed this cat, and I thought, oh my God, this is a co-star. This is not a prop. This is a co-star. This is Zsa galore. And the thing you're referring to, the tail, which I don't really want to give away, but that's not in the script. That is completely me. And it seemed like a natural expression of the emotion of a moment. And since my character is insane, and seems to be able to recognize that the cat is dead, but act like it's alive at the same time, I felt that, he sort of inhabits the cat. That's all I can say. It came out of the moment. It was logical in a weird way. And I love doing it. My temptation is to do it too much. So I've had to reduce it to just the right amount, Thank you.
So we have another question. We have a question for Simon. Simon was wonderful. Did you watch old James Bond movies? If so, which James Bond was Simon based on or influenced by?
Well, thank you for that compliment, first of all. I have watched old James Bond movies, and like most, I do have a couple favorites, one being Sean Connery and the other being Daniel Craig. But I found that in each Bond, there was something that resonated with me in each actor who played Bond. And initially I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this from each different ones and kind of put it all together. But then while doing that, I was like, all right, there are elements of myself that I can definitely bring to it. And so, you know, while Gregg wrote a brilliant play, he wrote the character Simon Cross. I created Simon Cross as how you see him on stage. Yes, there were definitely influences from Sean Connery and a little bit of Roger Moore, and you know, Gregg also mentioned to kind of check out Pierce Brosnan, who I guess influenced his creation of Simon Cross. But for me, it was mainly Sean Connery, because I kind of see it as him being a throwback to like the '60s era where smoking is acceptable, and his kind of, I wouldn't consider Simon so much of a misogynist, although that's how he is described by the other characters. But you know, that is more of a throwback to like the '60s kind of mentality. So I leaned a little towards Mr. Connery.
Shotgar and I imitated Sean Connery a lot during the run. We do it all the time.
Well, that invites to a good segue. Coming together, because I hope that the other cast members can join us, but chemistry, when it comes to a production, I've been in a couple of small productions, but you always want to make sure that, well, first of all, you hope that you get along with the other cast members so that you can, because once you're on stage, people, I feel like people can read the energy. If you don't like each other, they're going to see it. How was it meeting each other? Did you know each other before? And how did you form this bond? Because you have some really good scenes together that there has to be a good, I call it the volleyball effect. Like there has to be a good bond.
Yeah. When I direct, I always say to the cast, you know, at the first line of the play, the actor saying the line tosses a ball in the air, and the task of the cast is to keep the ball in the air for the rest of the play and put it down at curtain. And so you got to have people who return the ball. And we have that. I don't want to sound like a mindless booster, but if they're all great people, it's a very diverse cast. I didn't know any of them before we started. I was, you know, you have some trepidation about that, but I'm very fond of. I think we're all very fond of each other. We laugh like crazy at our performances and our behavior backstage. We tease each other. Like Annie, this is like how it should be. There's no bad apples. There's no backstage drama. So it's all together a pleasure to do the show with these people.
Yeah, you know, we're a theater company at Pacific Resident Theater, and I had known Joel Renner, who plays Stella, who is just wonderful as Stella, but I'd never worked with her, and I had never worked with Stuart or any of the cast members before. And really, the credit to the casting goes to Cyndy, who also produced and is playing Z. And each, you know, Stuart and I think, have the most scenes together because he plays both Gary and Lazarus. And we spend a lot of time on stage in our individual scenes and in the group scenes together. And we have great chemistry working together in all aspects in this production, as we do with everyone else in the cast. But one of the things I think that's very important is, you know, you learn to, fortunately, we all got along, but there's always going to be instances where maybe, you know, you don't get along with somebody in the cast, in a production down the road sometime. You learn to be professional, you know, and as I said last time, if you have to love someone on stage, you better find a way to love them, because the audience is going to know, you know, whether it reads true or not. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with everyone. This weekend is going to be Jill Renner's last performance, and we have a wonderful understudy named Mariah Shirley, who's going on as Stella. And I've been rehearsing with her a little bit, and she's equally as wonderful, but completely like different in her own way. So it's very interesting to see what she brings to the table and what she will bring to the entire dynamic of the show and the group scenes and all of that.
Gotcha. So we're almost at the half hour. For everybody who is watching this live, please join us. Ask some questions, make some comments. If you're watching this on replay, please still ask your questions or comments, and I'll make sure I'll get them to my guest. We are talking to the cast of The Spy Who Went Into Rehab. Let's talk rehab. As somebody, and I said it in the review, as somebody who went to rehab, like I felt like I knew you all. Like you went to rehab with me. You were there. I mean, I remember who you were, and research,
Yeah.
personal experiences. Like you don't have to say obviously, but like how did you? Because there's a.
I mean,
how did you?
yeah. I mean, I certainly experimented with some stuff in my day, but never went into rehab, thank the gods. But my wife is a therapist, currently working with trauma, but she has also spent a very great deal of time working in rehab situations. And while she can't tell me details about any individual that she treats because she's a pro, she has spent many hours talking about what it's like, what goes on, what her frustrations are. For example, just one example, Gary's limbs move a lot, particularly his legs. And I was doing that. I don't know if the audience knows, we ran this show for 4 weeks and then closed for a little bit and then reopened. And the writer added some things. And I think in part, no, I would say completely, because that twitchiness was part of what I had brought to the character. He added that line about restless leg syndrome. That wasn't in the first run. But my wife once was talking to me about a guy that was driving her crazy in group because some part of him was always moving. And I decided that Gary is a rehab lifer. He comes back a lot. He's not a young guy. And he, at the beginning of the play, even though it's only a 90-minute, not even 90, 70-minute play, Gary is still in withdrawal. So that decreases as the play goes on and also as his confidence increases. So it's part of what I'm tracking with the character. So that, for example, that's my experience. My experience of rehab is secondhand through my wife.
Gotcha. How about you?
Well, I have not been to rehab, but I think we all know somebody who's had some kind of addiction problem. I've had a cousin who's had an addiction problem who sadly passed away from it. And I myself have some issues that it might not be alcohol, but actually, I remember one person saying one time that I drank too much, and I'm really not a big drinker. So it was kind of surprising when someone said that. But that's how they knew me in a certain context. But there are certain things that, I deal with, and it might not be addiction, but it might be excessiveness, and whether it's compulsion, those kinds of things are somewhat of an addictive personality. And I look for ways in which I can relate to what I was talking about. And as I mentioned, everyone you can become clean, but you can also fall off the wagon. For me, it's health and fitness. When I'm on it, I'm on it. And when I'm not, I'm eating Cheetos and, not going to the gym. And 3 months later, I'm like, where did this come from? It's from, so I look for, ways that I can relate. It's not alcohol, but it might be health and fitness. And when I fall off the wagon, and I got to get back on. But there's something that I think that is identifiable for each and every one of us, because we talk about all different kinds of addictions, especially for Simon. It's gambling, it's alcohol, it's sex, it's everything. And it's other issues as well, whether it's anger issues or whatever it may be. I think there's something that we can all relate to within Simon and within the context of the play.
And I will tell you that the only thing that I missed seeing when y'all were in group scenes was the vast amount of chocolate that we had in Rehab.
That's a good note.
And it's only because you can't eat while you're talking. But I remember we used to like sell the minis. Those were our drug within Rehab, because we could. Most of us, I quit smoking, but cigarettes and mini chocolates. Mini chocolates were like, they would come to your room at midnight. It's like, do you have any chocolate? I'll sell it to you.
That's a great note. We could have some chocolate on the set. I also think Rehab people smoke a lot. I mean, I was a nicotine addict, but I know the theory is that for a long time, and so you were too. I think the theory is that smoking's not as bad for you as the other stuff, so they just kind of let you do that, right?
Yeah. And gaining weight in Rehab I feel like it's a must. Everybody gains weight in Rehab. I was always like a svelte 160, and I remember going up to like 175 in 3 months and being a little porker when I came out. But it's because you start getting taste buds back, and you. I'll give you this quick story. And by the way, we saw Rachel trying to log in. I'm hoping she's able to log in.
She said she asked for the link. That's why I'm sorry. Excuse me if I put my glasses on and look down. I was getting a text from her.
Yeah, and so we're hoping she'll be able to log in a minute. But I worked there at an Italian restaurant before I went to Rehab, and I worked there after I got out. My favorite is chicken piccata. I love chicken piccata. I came back after Rehab and tried it, and I was like, "Did y'all change the recipe?" And they were like, "No, it's the same." I'm like, "Why does it taste so garlicky?" And I asked my sponsors, like, "Could you have your taste buds back?" That's what's happening. Like, you can taste things now, but it's that difference. Which y'all did a really good. Even Gary, like, I'm trying not to give it away, folks, but there's a really good arc in each one of your characters from the beginning to the end. And I mean, of course, we follow Simon, and Simon is that guy that walked into Rehab, and I was like, I can't stand him. And then they were like, you have a new buddy, go with Daniel. I'm like, oh, I don't want to help him. And then you're like, oh, I want to root for you. You have to win.
Yeah. That's very much how Gary feels. Yeah. And by the end of it, Gary, without giving anything away, has an action hero moment. Right, Satya?
I think we all learn from each other, which is wonderful, And I'm not having been to Rehab, but when you have your group sessions, I'm sure there are stories that people share where you can relate and you can learn from them, and you want to help them and you root for them, because it's those moments where people become humanized, and you want. I think deep down we want people to do well. We care about people and we want them to succeed. We want to see them rise. And for someone like Simon, who, as Gary said, who had it all, he was the guy that when he was younger, like, would pick on him or whatever, and was someone who he would never envision becoming friends with. For them to be able to connect and help each other, that's part of the charm of the story. And it's all about relationships. It's about the relationships that I'm sure there's probably people from your Rehab that you still connect with, that you keep in touch with.
Yep. I've told people this. My very first sponsor, who I met at Rehab, which actually this show falls within. This Friday will be my 17th AA birthday. So this is my birthday week. Yeah. So I'm really excited. But my first sponsor to this date sends me a prayer every morning. So
amazing.
Every day I get a prayer. 17 years later, I still get a prayer. So those are bonds that you make for life.
Yeah.
Some of my brothers have passed away. Some of them went back out. We never heard from them again, but they're there. Let me see. I think I have another question on the board for you guys. Okay, here's another question. What were two significant challenges you both faced working on the show?
Stuart, I got to think about this.
Costume changes. Yeah.
For both of us.
There's that, and there's. I mean, first of all, I had a debate with the writer and director about whether I should shave, because this is how I normally go around the world. And they said, "Well, gosh, it's so good for the villain," and they said, "Nobody will notice." And I said, "Come on, what are you talking about? I'm trying to make two distinct people here, and I don't have time to put on a wig or anything. And they're both, people are going to believe that they're different people when they both have the same facial hair. And you know what? A lot of people don't, somehow they erase it from their vision. I don't know how, it's some kind of inexplicable magic. But yeah, it's the costume changes. It sounds so mundane, but it wasn't trying. I mean, I could say something else that was a little more sensitive, and that's, I was reluctant at first to play a gay man because I felt I was not, I don't want to say worthy, but in this day and age, there's plenty of gay actors who need to do roles, and they obviously would know the heart of this man better than I could. But I was convinced and that I should, and then I realized that an actor is a person who gets into the heart of the character. And since very possibly my absolutely dearest friend and brother, who was my roommate in New York and passed away from things that, you know, were killing a lot of other gay men at the time, is in my mind, and he was very much in my heart as I played this. But so that was a challenge, certainly, to get out of the way, not to do anything, not to, just to be the character, you know. So
yeah, gotcha. I understand. So Dave?
Well, the biggest challenge was all of the dialogue. 75 pages to memorize in, I think it was a matter of like 4 weeks, really, by the time I was off book. And then Gregg did rewrites, so having to relearn some of the stuff. Though I have to say, Gregg's writing is so good that it's easy to do, you know, and Stuart can attest for that as well. You can just pick it up real quick because his writing just, I don't know, it resonates with me. But that was a challenge initially, and dealing with the traffic getting to the theaters, I have to say.
Yes.
I can understand that. But let me reassure you, Stuart, as a gay man who went to rehab, I think you did an amazing job representing the community. So take it from this man, you did awesome. And taking Simon through that, again, I don't want to get emotional and make it about me, but I saw a lot of me in Simon. I was a very cocky person when I walked into rehab. I did not believe I had a problem. I was not the problem. I was not the problem. The bartender and the drug dealers were the problem, not me. But you know you have a problem when your drug dealer tells you, I think you need rehab. You know you have some issues, yeah. But watching Simon go through the different steps, because I always believe that it's a grievance process. There are the 5 steps of grieving that get you to the end. And I think you delivered those just wonderfully and so relatable. And you talk about Gregg, a big hello to Gregg. It's dialogue that doesn't go over your head. You understand what they're talking about. You get it. It's not trying to teach us. It's trying to get us involved. And I felt, especially when you were in a group setting, that I was right there in the meetings with you. Like I was part of the meeting. I didn't say anything, but I was there. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Comments. I'm sorry. If you wanted to add something to that, go ahead.
Well, I think you nailed it. I think it's something that when you become immersed in it and you feel like you're a part of it, and again, not to give too much away, but towards the end, you are definitely invited into our our New Horizons Rehabilitation Center. It's again, it's relatable because we've all experienced it to a certain extent. Whatever issues that we have, we can relate to either any one of the characters that are on stage at some point, and the issues that they have. From Yvonne talking about, her the things that she does, to Simon, to Gary, all of us, we all have our own issues, and it's something that you can relate as an audience member. I can relate as the actor.
Cool. And we just saw Rachel. Rachel just joined us, so we're going to bring
Oh
her
boy.
on stage. And of course, typical our show, she has no idea what's going on, so we're just going to bring her on and throw her in. Hi.
Okay. There she is.
Hey, Rachel.
Oh, wait, hold on a second.
Can we hear her?
She
How
is.
about
There we go.
now?
There she go.
I said hi, hello, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So we're gonna give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your character, and then we'll catch you up to the rest of the conversation.
I play Yvonne in The Spy Who Went into Rehab. And I am, as Yvonne, this is not my first rodeo. So I'd like to get it right this time, if you don't mind. And, nothing's going to stop me. That's what I always say, though. So, but this time, no. This time I'm going into sober living, and this time I'm going to stay sober in sober living, and I'm not going to get into trouble. And then who comes walking in but trouble, also known as Simon Cross. I've made friends here. I basically have relatives here. These people know me. I'm a retread, and then he messed with my man, Gary. Oh, no. Oh, no, he did not. No. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable here, and that's what scares me. I can also see right through him. I know what he's doing. I'm not impressed. I've seen and done it all, most likely, according to the Gospel of Yvonne. So,
Got you. I was very impressed with Yvonne and the strong female energy that you brought. Like, there was such a balance. Like, I feel like Simon didn't expect to find like challenge there, and you were like, nope, you're. Does that make sense?
yes. Well, I mean, he was ready. Poor Gary. He just can't take this at this stage in the game. But I'm like, I'll defend Gary. I'll defend myself. I'm not scared of you, because all of this is nothing but your addiction. Talking to me, talking to you. Talking to Stella, and this big, wonderful facade of his. I mean, who needs rehab more than a double, triple, quadruple agent like Simon Cross? The gambling, the women, the thorough lack of accountability. I just go from, fabulous situation to fabulous situation. I gamble, I have sex, I drink, I leave, I gamble, I have sex, so and for him to get this little dose of reality, I love it. And how comfortable he gets is to me, because I thank you for saying that about strength, but I feel very vulnerable with Yvonne too, because like I said, Yvonne would really like to not come back here as much as she loves all of y'all. She would really love to not come back here. It's all the same, but I tell him, you're the last person I'm thinking about right now, and I mean it. There's a part in the play where he's talking to me, and I'm like, trust me, you are the last person. You're the last thing I'm thinking about right now. You're entertaining, but I got so much on my mind. I got to get out of here, and I need to stay out of here. I need to stop and stay stopped.
You talk about vulnerability. Where did you get that from? Where is there something particular, some memory, some thought that you had to grab onto to play that part?
For me, I've got a whole life for Yvonne, and the truth of the matter is, I've thought I've loved every single one of these guys that I've been with. I really have. And, so what if, he gave me his Dalmatian puppy and maybe I took the fire truck just this one time. Nobody got hurt. I just wanted to hear the sirens. At the end of the day, I'm just a girl who likes to have fun. But there's a moment when I have to wonder why all of these guys who have completely distracted me from my purpose in life, which is to be the wonderful, sober person that I am. I want to blame all of them, right? It's their fault, except there's only one problem. I know all of these dudes, and all of these dudes only know me. They don't know each other, but they all know me, which makes me a common denominator. And that's my little vulnerability. Like, God, here's a guy who comes in here and he doesn't know me, even though he says he knows me. He thinks he knows me. That's a whole different thing. He thinks like, no, you do not know me, and you're absolutely wrong. That's the life that I've created for Yvonne.
We're at the 45-minute mark, but there's a question that I didn't get to ask you the first time. Oh, Cyndy's coming in, so we can talk to
Cyndy!
Great.
Cyndy.
Yeah.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Cyndy.
Our leader.
Fearless leader.
How's it going?
It's going well. So I'll give you your moment to introduce yourself and let folks know who you are.
Oh, sure. I am Cyndy Fujikawa, and I am the producer and director of The Spy Who Went into Rehab. And I also have a role as the character of Z.
And who is Z within the play?
Oh, she's well, I don't want to give away too much, but
okay,
she.
We'll leave it. We'll leave it as a secret. Shh, it's a secret, folks. But let me ask you. I had another question, but let me go back to you. When you were putting the cast together, what was it about these folks that you say, there's Simon, there's Gary, there's Yvonne?
Oh gosh, that's a lot to unpack, actually. We started with the character of Simon, of course, and we had been interested in working with Satyar on another play of Gregg's called The Beverly Hills Hotel Peace Talks, and he had actually not been able to read the play with us because of scheduling conflicts, and then he pointed out that he was actually too old for that part, and then he read the script, and then he said, "This is really great, I want to read it anyway." And then we all got together, and then Gregg that play got committed elsewhere. And then we started thinking about doing this one, and we asked Satyar if he would be a part of it. I said, how's your British accent? And he said, it's great. And I just took him at his word, and here we are.
That's awesome. For the actors, personal growth, because now I feel like you've been in rehab for at least a month. Personal growth that maybe you've done through the characters or saying the words. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Every time I do a role of any kind, I grow. It's one of the most gratifying things about being an actor is that what your job is to stretch your heart to let another person in, to encompass another person. And some acting theorists say that in every human being there's the potential to be any kind of human being under the right circumstances, and actors get to explore that potential. So this time I was a psychotic super genius, and arguably a stuffed cat, and I was also a very sensitive, sweet, vulnerable man who has an addiction problem. And I haven't played either of those parts before, and so yes, I got myself out of the way of them, and I'm humbled. I mean, I just learned. I'm humbled. I don't even know where it comes from. So I must be richer. And I got to work with all these wonderful people. That makes me grow.
Satya?
I think every time you play a part, you get to exercise a part of yourself that maybe you haven't explored before. and sometimes it's exercising demons that you're not willing to personally address, but you do so through the context of a character. Um, I I've really enjoyed doing the show. This is probably my favorite character that I've ever played, um, and it's just fun to. What I've really enjoyed, to be honest, about doing this is people walk out laughing. I don't think anyone has left the show going, "God, I just wasted 75 minutes of my time." They have a good time, they laugh, and that is fulfilling for me to make people laugh and brighten their day. You don't know what kind of day they've had, but they leave feeling good and walking away with again some way of relating to what they saw, whether it's through my character or Rachel's character or Jill's or Cindy's or Stuart's, and or Alondra, who's not here, who plays Pixie, and and that also, no one has really come up and said, I can. Well, you just talked about, actually you talked about how you can, you identify with what you saw on stage, and that also is really gratifying, um, as an artist, to know that people connect with what you're doing. But for me, really, it's an opportunity to delve deeper into myself and look for ways to identify with the character that I'm playing, and also then possibly, deal with some of the things that I was reluctant to deal with.
Gotcha. Excellent. And for you, Rachel?
For me, where I've grown. Could you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah,
I was listening to everyone's wonderful answers.
And on a personal level, now that it feels like you've been in rehab for a month, how have you personally grown?
I'm noticing little things that Yvonne does differently that are bubbling up. And even, afterward, when our fearless leader, Cyndy, has notes for me, there was a note that really helped me. I should say it helped Yvonne, me as Yvonne, because like I said, the Yvonne is vulnerable. It's a tough exterior, but I as Yvonne, I really feel vulnerable, and sometimes I'm doing more than is necessary. That's Yvonne's life, doing way too much, and it's like, trust me, Yvonne, you're enough. And as I take that in and let it soak in, I notice little different things that Yvonne is doing. Sometimes you probably might not see it. It's very internal. A lot of times, it's subtle, but it's always personal, and it really helps when I'm listening to Simon, when I'm listening to Pixie, when I'm listening to Gary. All of these things, they cause me to actually, there have been times when I've come home and called a friend and said, something new is happening with Yvonne. So, but it's something that was gradually birthed. You know what I mean? It didn't happen the first time we went. It didn't happen the second time. So it feels good that this is something that's still unraveling. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I want to make sure that we get the announcements out. So for everybody, here is the poster for the Spy Went Into Rehab. If you want more information on that, please reach out to us, and I will make sure you get that. Also, if you're driving down Venice, this is what you see. The Spy Who Went Into Rehab. And just to prove to you that we did do that first episode, but it just didn't turn out right. Here is the cast picture. So Rachel wasn't there with us that day, but here's again. We want to shout out to Alondra and Jill, who are not here today, but amazing job on their end. Cyndy, where, when, how long, all the information so they can find you guys.
We are running Friday and Saturday nights at 8:00 and Sundays at 3 for 3 more weekends through July 7th. And somebody's knocking on my door. And you can get tickets at pacificresidenttheater.org, and it's theater with an R-E at the end. Thank you for putting it on the screen. And you can also look for half price tickets on todaytix.com. And yeah, we'll see you there. It's filling up fast, though.
It's an excellent, again, on a personal level. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It was really great to be there opening night and watching you and being part of that first audience.
Yeah, it was great to have you.
Thank you. And second, I felt like I was back in rehab. Like it really just felt like I was looking for my case manager and I was looking for my sponsor. Like am I supposed to get a tip or something? And what a treat to have y'all on the show this week. I was telling the gentleman before y'all joined us, this Friday is my 17th AA birthday. So
Yay.
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. So I want to now, I know that Jill is leaving and we have the new actor. I want to come back and see it and go to a meeting again. So it feels like, would I bring my book and have y'all sign it? Like, I don't know. Is there anything about it? But before we go, we're going over a little bit. I hope you guys don't mind, but we can't go up without the words of wisdom moment. So I'm going to start as y'all came in. Stuart, some words of wisdom for the audience watching.
Okay. Oh gosh, I think I said to you last time, I'm still working on wisdom. I will say that I don't feel like I've done anything to get the things that I've gotten. I know that's a strange way of looking at it. I feel lucky. I feel terribly lucky. But one of the things I'm luckiest about is the people who have helped me. And if I've done any one thing to keep those people coming, it's saying yes. Even if I end up not doing something in the long run, if you ask me to audition for something, if you ask me to show up for a party, if you ask me to read a play with you, my commitment is to say yes. You can't get anything if you say no, and you can't get anything if you stay home. Just say yes, and your luck will flow to you. How about that?
Oh, I love that. Sakir?
I will stick with what I shared last time, which is love life and live true. And what I mean by loving life, you are life. Without you, life doesn't exist. So love who you are and be true to yourself. Be true to yourself as an artist. You know, it's a scary thing what we do, as I'm sure you know, getting on stage and kind of revealing, being open and vulnerable. It's a scary process, and you know, being true to yourself is part of that process. And you know, life is too short to waste with, you know, pretending to be something that you're not, or not speaking your truth. So be true to who you are, and love life, enjoy the process. Because you only get one, as far as I know.
Sure. Rachel?
I'm gonna say vulnerability is a superpower.
Oh, nice.
I like that.
And I'll tell you what my husband usually tells me: never trust a skinny chef.
That's wisdom.
Thank you.
Just give a check mark on that one
I
right
like
there.
that one, yeah.
And Cyndy?
Oh, yeah. Support the arts. You know, make art, come and see art, and you know, yeah, it's another version of live your truth. But when all else is, you know, when all else fails, we will have storytelling. You know, we'll have acting, we'll have writing, we'll have that fundamental thing to see us through.
That's pretty cool. Any last comment that you want? Anything I didn't get to ask you that you were like, I want to say this?
I don't know what you covered so far, but I'd say, you know, it's not an accident that we have a diverse cast. There was a lot of that was a priority for us. It didn't happen in the way you might think. There were not, you know, everything was, I think, you know, there was a original, in the original script, there was a cast member that was a Latino. It morphed into an entirely different thing. Everything kind of morphed a little bit. I'm an Asian American, and I cast myself in the role of basically Judi Dench. And I think we have to be intentional about representing the world we live in. Yeah, I think it worked out really well. I think we got a fantastic cast, actually.
And actually, we hadn't talked about the diversity. We haven't such a conversation on other things, but yes, it's a very cool diversity. We did a little talk about Gary, so there's a line in the big book, and I think it really reflects what you folks are doing. There's for those of you who read the big book, big book, page 132. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We have been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we are not a glum lot. And I have lived with that in my life, that not because I got sober meant I had to be serious, because Lord knows I'm not mature. So that is never a problem for me. But thank you so much. And I appreciate y'all trusting me to coming back on the show and sharing the story so we can do honor to the interview, because I know that person was just not up to par. So any last words before we go?
Thank you,
Thank
Daniel,
you.
once again. And
Thank
hope
you.
you come back and see the show.
I will.
Thank you, Daniel.
And next shows that you have, I am at your service. So let me know, and please come back on the show and promote it with us. We'd love to see y'all again. I'm going to put y'all in the green room while I say goodbye to everybody, but don't go away if you don't have to. Give me just 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
All right.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the cast of The Spy Who Went to Rehab. Make sure you check them out at the Pacific Resident Theater, 703 Venice Boulevard in Venice, California. Check them out at pacificresidenttheater.org, or you check out for tickets at todaytix.com. For more information, please go onto the website to check them out. We will see you tomorrow, Wednesday, for the Christian and Daniel show. We'll be back with that. For now, this is Daniel Garza saying thank you so much for watching. And hey, put it together. See you next time. Bye-bye.